gives me great pleasure to bring on Mandeep. And I know it's very difficult to get hold of Mandeep. I've known Mandeep for quite a while. And Mandeep is currently with Johnson & Johnson Surgical Vision as Regional Marketing Director for Asia Pacific and Japan. Now, prior to rejoining Johnson & Johnson, I know he has a story there. He was also the Regional Com Ops Director for Abbott Vision. And prior to joining Abbott, Mandeep worked with J&J for 10 years, holding positions of increasing responsibility. So his positions, he keeps going on a higher portfolio all the time, but primarily in marketing and general management across fast-moving consumer goods, medical device segments. His assignments included establishing a new function, growing a mature business, as well as starting up a new business. So the full works. So Mandeep attended Rotterdam School of Management, Erasmus University, and received his MBA. That's where he received his MBA, and he's also a trained pharmacist. So you can go to him, questions on drugs, and a passionate advocate for using digital technology to drive business result. So Mandeep, I'm gonna pass the floor to you. And today Mandeep is gonna be sharing with us on his view on how you as a professional should be leveraging 7 Ps to build your career. Okay, Mandeep, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much, Eileen. Let me see if you can see my screen.
Yep, I can see your screen, yes.
Okay, I'm just gonna go into the full screen. Okay, everyone's okay so far? Okay, wonderful. So in her introduction, Eileen mentioned about the 7 Ps. I'm going to split that up into 4 plus 3. So from a marketing standpoint, when we start to think about selling a product, marketing a product, it's, as you saw in her deck, it's the same principles which also apply to when you're trying to sell yourself. Now, the word selling at times does not come across to be very friendly in some occasions, whether you're trying to raise interest in someone's mind on whether they should actually hire you, or essentially trying to find a new position in the organization. It has a lot of the common principles. And interestingly, I've actually invited 2 of my members from my team to be on this call, so they can hold me honest and make sure that I'm walking the talk in terms of how I look at hiring people and bringing them on board. So whether we're living in a COVID world or a non-COVID world, the actual principles of hiring or looking for people haven't changed so much over the years. Now, let me bring you back to the year 1915. That's 1915. So a gentleman by the name of Ernest Shackleton essentially was looking to bring a group of about 30 men or navigators to the Arctic. Their objective was to be the first group of people to essentially walk on the Arctic. And if you reflect back on that almost 90 years ago, it doesn't seem to be a big deal. However, this was the year 1915, and it was very important because it was the same time when there was a World War I going. And this voyage was really important because in Shackleton's mind, by completing this voyage, they would be able to give a tremendous boost of morale to people in England who at that time were involved in a very serious war, and they were looking at ways to inspire their soldiers so England could be someone who could win the war. So in the year 1915, when Ernest Shackleton was looking to form his team, again, we are not going to the Arctic. We are not going to be embarking on a voyage that could be life-threatening. He actually made a list of things that he would look at when he was asking these people to come on board. And in his list, there were 6 things that he had a list that he asked everyone who applied for this job. And that list ranged from technical skills, creativity, grit or resilience, prior experience, which is something that we all value, attitude and independence. Now, in this list, when we look at several hiring managers across the world, the number 1 ranked thing, surprisingly, is not technical skills or prior experience. And if anyone could get, it's actually attitude. So if you have the right attitude, whether you're going to the Arctic or you're trying to find a new job in a COVID situation or a non-COVID situation, for me, the number one thing that I look for in terms of bringing someone to my team is the ability to have a positive attitude and learn. So that hasn't changed over the years. And this is also reflected in the fact that as we go through these challenging times, for us, we think the actual rules of hiring have changed. They have not changed really. They have become more prominent in terms of hiring managers going the extra mile to find the people who'd be the right fit for the team. And this is not only in the COVID world. We've seen a lot of these examples throughout the business world, whether it was Netflix overtaking Blockbuster, which was a huge change in the whole way the content was being delivered. It was also the way we had cars that essentially started to take away the horses and the carriages. So we've had significant changes all throughout the human history. We understand that the one that we're facing with COVID is probably unprecedented. But if you ask the same question to the people who had their horses and carriages, for them, that change of people moving to buying cars was also unprecedented. Similarly, Blockbuster, and there are so many examples, whether it's Amazon and Barnes and Noble or Kodak with Apple. So we've seen examples of a lot of this disruptive transformation, which have happened at different stages of our lives, of our business world, that have forced people to think differently in terms of how do they look at their own value and demonstrate it, especially when they're trying to find new jobs. Okay, so on the left of my screen, this is the actual ad that was placed in a newspaper by Ernest Shackleton. And again, in those days, 1915, I think the word men was probably men and women included. So I think there was no intent to keep women on the side. But you can see if you have the ad on the left, men / people wanted for a hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return, doubtful, honor and recognition in the event of success. So how is this ad different from the word cloud that I have on the right and different from the word cloud that we just created in terms of what hiring managers look for in their team? It's about the same. I mean, again, we can debate the actual semantics of the small wages, etc. But we want people with a positive attitude who can learn quickly, who can really bring their whole selves to work, and who are focused on doing the best thing for the customer or for the patient, whichever industry you might have been. And this is why, in my opinion, those rules of hiring, those rules of looking for high contributor, high impact people haven't really changed over these years. And that's why it's very important as you embark on your journey going forward about looking for new jobs, looking for new opportunities, to really understand how hiring managers think. And if you understand what are the key drivers that we have, it's really important for you to understand them and then find out how you can add value. One key thing which I get asked a lot is that as a candidate, do I owe anything to the hiring manager? And my answer to that is absolutely. If I hire someone on my team, the incumbent or the candidate's job is to make my life easy. I don't owe you anything till the time you start to make my life easy. So we at times are in this mindset that, you know, I bring so many things to the table. Why didn't they recognize it? As an organization, we don't owe candidates anything. We're looking for people who will come in and make our jobs easier. And if you do that, it is very easy for us as hiring managers to help you to advance in the organization, help you to proceed with your career goals, and also develop you. Okay, so job search. We are, again, in a really tough time, and we're trying to understand how can I distinguish myself with someone who is on this call versus someone that I know who got hired for a job while I did not. Here are a few things to actually keep in mind. Again, this is based on my experience. Different people's experiences, I think, as you hear from June and Jorgen, their experiences would be different. This is based upon what I've seen and how I look at hiring people into my organization. Okay, as I mentioned, the first thing that I always look for is positive attitude. So when I interview someone, I'm always looking for examples of how you've demonstrated that positive attitude. And I get really turned off if you're not able to demonstrate to me or tell me simply on how you added value into a project versus being just a simple part of that project. And the whole concept of the positive attitude, it manifests into a number of different things. It tells me how open you are to learning, how quickly you'll be able to adapt to the team that you're coming in. And it also gives me a clear indication on how strong you will be in terms of embracing the organization's values. So that's one. Closely linked to that is perseverance. We all wish for times when they are good. It's an ideal, or I would say it's a blessing when things are good and things are going smoothly. Perfect, we can all cruise along. But as they say that ships are safest in a harbor, but that's not what ships are meant for. So in terms of understanding how I look at people, I'm always looking for examples on how they were stuck in a situation, whether it was a professional or a personal situation, and what was their thinking in terms of finding a way out of that situation. And irrespective of whether you were able to find an answer or not, what I look for is your approach on how you approach a problem and how you think. So it could be that you gave your best to a project, you looked at every avenue that was possible, and in the end you didn't succeed. That's okay. What I want to know is that you did not give up. And what I also want to know is, what did you learn from that whole process? Because if you truly lived that whole process of failure, there are invaluable learnings that you would have actually gotten out of it. And those learnings are the ones that will make you more successful as you look at similar projects in the future, or you looking at different jobs, because it's that approach which will make you attractive to an employer. Because when you're going to come into a new job, for the first 6 to 9 months, your ability to contribute will be limited. So if I'm supposed to take a bet on someone, I want to make sure that this person is not going to quit when things get tough. Because otherwise, if that person quits, I will have to take up the extra slack. And as I mentioned, my job of hiring you as my team member is to essentially make my life easier. And I don't want it the other way around. Okay, what else? Perspective. Now, for those of you who still remember the first Top Gun movie, I think a lot of you on the call might have been really young when that movie came out. So on the left, we have a quote which is, I find it very meaningful. And it's about two pilots talking to each other. And for context, Top Gun, in the movie Top Gun, Tom Cruise is this really, really good pilot, and he likes to do weird things and at times show off. And so when you're considering Tom Cruise as a team player, he's not a team player. He's someone who likes to show off his individual skills. He's brilliant. But then when you look at him as an asset on your team, it's his team members actually perceive him to be more dangerous than the enemy. And that's not a really good spot to be in, because no one can do everything on their own. You need people on your team who help you in terms of sharing things with you, of giving you feedback so that you become better at what you do. And also be making sure that as a team, you can be more successful versus an individual. I think individual brilliance has a role, but as you get more senior in your career, the key is how can you play with people who are very different than you. And if you have the perspective on how do I play a role in this in terms of making the team succeed, which is something which makes you an invaluable team member, irrespective of whichever organization and whichever team you go to. So perspective on how to play in a team, really important. Okay, my fourth P is about passion for learning. Uh, the the whole COVID landscape has given us a lot of opportunities to learn, including all of you who are here today. We have so much information content to learn, and you know I am really proud to be a Singaporean that our government actually gives us money to learn. I am not aware of a lot of other governments who give you $500 to $1,000 every day to actually spend on your skills futures courses, and it could be anything which actually helps you be better at what you do, whether it's learning a new language or it's learning a new skill. And learning is a lifelong passion. So if you have a passion of learning new things, whether it's in your personal or your professional life, it's a huge asset in the team, because that'll really help you in terms of understanding new things quickly. And the more quickly you can understand new things, the faster you'll be able to contribute to the team. Okay, so those were my core 4 Ps. However, I have also identified 3 Ps, which probably are, you know, for all the millennials on the call, because you guys think differently from old people like me, is key on, especially if you're talking to the Gen Xers like me, on how do we evaluate people. So we get the point that you guys are different. And in my team, I do have millennials, so I have to work think very differently from the way you guys think. But at the same time, like, you know, you have the good rules of doing things, or the good rules of fashion. There are some classic rules which never change. And in the next 3 slides, I'll give you those rules in a very humorous fashion, so that hopefully as you start to think about your Facebook or the LinkedIn profiles, it gives you a little bit of help in terms of how do you structure your conversations with prospective employers. Okay, my first one is about preparation. So if you look at the actual cartoon, people always ask you the same questions in interviews. What is your strength? What did you learn about it? And although the whole cartoon depicts talking the wrong thing in a humorous fashion, trust me, this happens a lot. I have seen so many people who on paper look really good on their CVs, who have all the right qualifications, the right experience, but they don't come prepared. They don't think about what are the simple questions that I'm going to ask them. And what that does is that, in fact, if I ask the question in the first 15 minutes and I find that you're not really prepared, for me, that interview is over. I will talk to you for another 15 minutes just to understand you a little bit more, but you've actually completely switched me off. In fact, I was speaking to one of my team members who had a very similar experience. In the first 15 minutes, the candidate said something, and it was completely off the actual question which was asking for. The candidate didn't realize that, and that was the end of the interview. So prepare each time you're going to have a conversation with someone, whether your hiring manager says that this is going to be a chat. There is no non-serious chat in the corporate world. If I'm going to give you my time, take 15 minutes of your time, it means that I am evaluating you as someone who could potentially join my team. So be extremely prepared about yourself, what you want to do, and the organization that you're basically looking at. The other one, social presence. Okay, we live in a crazy world of social media. We spend so much time, and I think we have some facts that the younger generation spends more time in front of a screen than time sleeping. So when you're spending so much time on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and a number of different channels, your digital footprint is always going to be there. And it's very important, like you manage your resume very well, that there are our expectations is you don't have any typos. You have it made in a very professional manner. You're telling your stories. It's not very different from your social media profile. So if I'm going to hire someone, I'm going to look at, I'm basically going to look you up. And if I look at your pictures in your personal world, which I don't think align with what you said in the interview, I'm going to be having second thoughts about hiring you. And that's really, really important. So again, whatever goes on Facebook, whatever goes on LinkedIn, whatever goes on Instagram is out for everyone else to see. And as they say that sharing is good, but within limits. So I'll give you an example. With this whole work from home thing, there were 3 people, I think, from KPMG in Hong Kong who were actually climbing a mountain, and they took a picture. They took a selfie and put it on to their Facebook, saying, "Oh, we love this work from home thing." So you can imagine if I am their supervisor, it's a clear breach of trust that you're saying that you're working from home and we're allowing you to work from home so that we can keep the whole COVID-19 from spreading. But 3 of the guys are on a mountaintop, essentially showing off on how much fun that they're having on company expense while they should be working from home. So again, these are small things which people at times forget. So always a friendly reminder in terms of making sure that your social presence is clean. The final one on my list. We always get this question each time we finish our interviews, that, okay, so what are the next steps? So, and I always like to close by saying, thank you for your time. And we are considering several other candidates. And once we've decided, you'll hear back from us. However, I've seen cases where people have tried to contact me a number of different times from a number of different channels to find an answer. Honestly, that actually annoys me because that, in my mind, is harassment. And again, if we want someone to join our team, we will do that through the right way. And in bigger organizations, it takes time. You know, we have to go through a number of processes in which we align people and make sure that everyone who gets to our team has gotten approval from several different channels. Please don't think that we are not aware or that you've interviewed with us. We are absolutely aware. We know that your time is important. However, there are some things that we can't disclose because that's within the organization. And in the due course, if you are the person who is selected, we will get back to you and we will get you on board. So in this case, patience is a virtue. We live in a 140 character world, but at times just try to focus on something else, which I know is hard, especially when you're waiting for an answer. But try avoiding contacting the hiring manager or HR many times. Sending a thank you mail after the interview is perfectly normal if you got the hiring manager's contact. But apart from that, if you really want to follow up, give it some time and see how things are happening before you really start to spend a lot of time in contacting either the HR or the hiring manager. Okay, so in summary, here is my hexagon, which actually summarizes the 7 P's, 4 plus 3, and you can see that most of them are pretty obvious, and it's key for us, especially as we start to go through these tough times, that these P's are becoming even more important, given that the distinction between people who are working hard, doing all the work versus people who are just building on conversations is becoming even more hard. And I think from an employer standpoint, we're always looking for good people. So whether if you see a job post, please apply. But at the same time, also remember that our HR team also keeps interview records. They also keep resumes on file. So if they find that there was one role that you were not a good fit for, they will always keep that resume on file. And in case there's a role that comes up, which was better, they will contact you. So we don't forget about people. Again, if you focus on what are the key things in terms of making yourself genuinely more attractive to the employers, I think that'll go a long way in terms of being successful in landing your dream job. Finally, I'm going to leave you with the actual hiring pages of my organization, J&J. Again, we are a equal opportunity, diversity, respecting employer. We have lots of opportunities within Singapore also, which are being advertised. And again, if you find anything which is interesting, please go and apply for it. And again, it might take a while for us to find a fit, but if then there is a fit, the organization does value talent, and we're always looking for good people to join us. So thank you so much for listening, and let me pass it back to Eileen.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mandeep, for your 7 Ps. Actually, I have a question that that might be appropriate, or because you mentioned about the last part, where we need to exercise patience. After the interview, there's a question in Menti that goes like this. During interviews, interviewers mention that they'll get back in 2 weeks' time, but after 2 weeks, they still don't hear anything, right? So interviewers never get back, even to the ones that were not successful. So they are just interested in what do you take, what's your take on that?
So, as an organization, J&J has a policy of essentially replying back or giving a reason why someone did not select from the initial shortlist. So if we have a shortlist, our organization will get back if you were shortlisted. Again, if you are not, then it's a different issue where you'll probably get an automated message from the system that you were not suitable for this job. However, if you look at it from my perspective, at times my day starts at like 7 a.m. and I have calls which can range from 6 to 7. So maybe I want to get back to you within 2 weeks. However, at times it's not practically possible. Maybe I needed to get approval from someone. That person was on vacation. I had an important presentation that I had to make. So there are so many reasons and so many competing priorities, which may mean that we may not be able to miss the or meet the actual deadline. So what I try to do is give a range. Maybe it's 2 to 3 weeks, or maybe it's 2 to 4 weeks, so that I'm not holding up anyone. But it's just that if you look at it from our lens, we have so many things happening at one time that at times, and also we have so many interdependencies. So as I mentioned, people are on vacation. There are people who are busy with other things, and in a bigger organization like ours, we need several rounds of approvals before we can get anyone in. So the whole process is quite time consuming. So at times that 2 weeks might not be 2 weeks in stone. It could be a range that might stretch a little bit longer.
Right. So so to your point, be patient. Don't assume that it's all gone. And also it's okay to kind of give them a tinkle, right? If give them another week, so to speak.
Yeah, which is fine.
Yeah, give it another week. Who knows? Yeah, cool. I actually have another question, but I think I'll hold this question off. Yeah, I think I'll hold this question off. So thank you again, Mandeep. Do check. I think there are some questions that are asked in the chat, and then also menti.com. So sure. Thank you again. All right.
You're most welcome. I'll just
stay with us.